everyone, I just thought I'd do a little bit to camera here to introduce doing some oil pastels with you. I just thought it'd be really nice for you as well to see the little setup I've got. It's just with a pineapple in some bright colours. You could use some other fruit, but it's really nice to have all these bright colours. I've got the biggest set of oil pastels here on the go, but you could use your smaller one if you wanted to. You'll probably need a smudging stick, and to keep yourself a little bit tidy you might want to use some kitchen paper to protect yourself, but I think we could go ahead and do this colourful pineapple to cheer you up. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm setting this up again just to show you how we're going to approach drawing this pineapple in oil pastel. Okay, because I can see it in real life, so I've tried to put an image here for you to look at. I would suggest you draw from the image there. Unless you've got a pineapple and you've got some paper, you could have a go at making some setups. So we have our smudging stick, we have our sandpaper to clean, and I've got two sets of the Cray Pas pastels, the smaller set and some of the bigger set. We're going to sketch out using a mid-tone pastel. I've got a flesh colour here. I'm going to start with just putting in some of the spiky tops. Here you go. And then we're going to look at the proportion. So this part of the pineapple is very much longer at the top than it is at the bottom. So we could use the measurement at the bottom. I'm just going to use the real life one and see it's 1.5 basically on here. So I've got it 1 and about a half. So I'm going to use this line that I've got along the bottom, which probably is just off shot for you, as the red. It's going to be quite small on the page here. So I'm going to do the pineapple like this. Ideally I'd like to have done it a bit bigger, but because we're landscaping, we have to be for the video, it's easier to do it this way. So I've got this shape here, and then 1 and about a half. So that's about right in terms of scale. So I'm going to just put in a few details and just look at the spikes and just pick out a few at different heights. It might be that I come back over these, so that little one at the top there is hiding in behind this one. So if you want to do things in pencil first, you can, but I would suggest that you keep it light, because it seems to be that pencil is hard to rub out once it's underneath a lot of things. With oil pastels it should layer on top fairly well, but my advice would be to use this mid-tone here. And I'm just putting in some of these spikes to get us started. And then come over here, and then what we're going to do is put in some of these spiky shapes. You could be forensic about it and measure. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 about, so we could do it like that. So we've got one at the bottom, a bigger one, 2, another one, 3, another one further over, 4, 5. That makes sense to do it like that and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It also means you don't get particularly lost when you're drawing as well, and you can see which one is which. I often find that, you know, using the measurements that nature gave you isn't such a bad idea. Okay, so that's roughly sketched in. I'm going to now start using this lovely blue. I think that's really gorgeous. It gives you the negative space, and it's really good to work in the negative here. So you can see up here, it's very dark behind. I can see from life it really is very dark in that shadow, because that bit of the paper that I've put in front is sort of flopping forward, so it's incredibly dark behind there. So that would be my darker tone. So if you do have a bigger set, you could put in some of these darks as well, so that you can really start looking at the negative shape, and draw that first. I've just put as well a bit of kitchen roll underneath my drawing board, because I like to have it elevated, and they're so messy, these oil pastels, that you really want to protect your clothes. You can put them on an apron if you like, I know a lot of you do. Okay, so let's draw the negative space. Perhaps use this lighter blue to start, like a strong blue, and go around and get these shapes in. There's quite a lot of detail over here, there's quite a few mixing up. This can come in a bit as well, this shape. We can see that coming in, because I've done it a bit more like a football, and then it basically only comes up to about there, that blue, because then it's red. Although you've got this bit as the corner, it's quite far in there. So it might be nicer to draw it a bit more zoomed in and draw it bigger on your page, but for these purposes I've chosen this scale so that you can see everything, and we can enjoy blocking in some of these areas as well. So this is a really dark blue here, picking out all these edges and the dark shadow behind. Now with oil pastels you tend to layer them, so I'm going to block in all of this area here. You could even break it off and use the side. I actually think it might be nice to keep a bit of the paper here, because it is that strong blue and I've chosen it because of it, so leave a little bit around the edge. I think that it's really going to pop out on the blue. Okay, and I think I'm going to use, in this border set we've got kind of this lovely bright blue. What you could do, in fact, is you could just, if you haven't got this bright blue, you could just put a light area of white down, because the idea is that you're keeping it light and bright with oil pastels, because it's harder to put them in. So that only comes about as far as that. And then use your strong blue that you've got from your pack. I'll try and remember which ones comes from which pack now, because it might be that you've only got the lighter one. So then you can layer up and actually create this brighter blue by blending it with the other light blue. So you're creating that colour, and that's how you mix the oil pastels. So if you haven't got a colour, don't fret, you can use an alternative. The idea with oil pastels is they are quite free in that sense, and the pigment's quite strong, so I think there is a bit of fluidity with these. But that's me making that bright blue. But if you've got it, use it. So I'm going to use a little bit of this as well, just to show you. So these leaves are coming out behind. So I've got, you can do it in a quite fiery way, kind of accentuate these strokes as well. So I'm just doing the background here, because I like to draw the negative space and check that I've got everything where I want it, before I perhaps put any of the darker greens in. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with yellow. We've got this buttercup yellow in both the sets. It's a really nice colour. And as you'll notice, around the edge of these kind of cushions of pineapple, you've got a lot of yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those in first, because you want your lightest tones first, really, with oil pastel as much as possible. I'm going to squint at this. I can really see that there's quite a lot of yellow in the centre where the light's hitting, and kind of less as you get around the corners. it's quite hard to get detail in with oil pastels. So, and you also want to keep a little bit of the tone of the paper here if you possibly can, because it's such a lovely colour. So I'm just going to put in little bits of yellow to start with, where I can see them most, and try and build it up in a painterly sort of blocky way. So not too much. You can always come back and add more colour, but it's harder to take away. There's no yellow in the top part there. I'd say the primary colours is probably white. So what you can do is see if we can get kind of like a sagey green happening here. I'm not sure in the smaller kit. I don't seem to have any sort of sagey greens. I must have, and they've just sort of migrated somewhere else. And I did buy some other greens. What would be nice is to get that kind of smoky bluey green if you've got it. And also I can see some pinks in there as well. So let's maybe start with the pinks even, because they're the lighter tones, lighter than the green perhaps. And it's sort of almost a sort of purplish reflection of the red ground there. So let's put that in. Let's have a look at where we can see it. That particularly that spike coming out there towards us, that's got quite a lot of pink on it. Let's pop in that pink and just see how it looks. It will really zip against the blue as well, so let's put it in. Again, you might want to scratch. You could get a cocktail stick and scratch out anything that you perhaps wanted to take away. I'm going to pop in a few more bits of pink. It's just the tips really, isn't it, as well? A little bit of pink on the tips there that they kind of come out and curl over. Okay, just put it where you see it. That might be it. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit of white, because that's the sort of mid-tone of that, and we can always blend back from it, but we need some on there to start with. So I'm going to look at squint again and look at the very lightest tones. Now this spike coming out here is really quite light, isn't it? So we're going to get that one in. There's one in front as well. So let's try and get these spikes going. I'm going to pull that down a bit more. You want to use the tips of it really. We did get through quite a lot of white when we were using it before, and you always will. It's probably might be good to invest in another white oil pastel, because you just tend to need to get those lighter tones in. So I'm going to just be putting in a little bit of the white. The main point of this is just to enjoy yourself though. I mean, if you see other colours in there, put them in. The idea really is just you work from light to dark. And this isn't a formal session where you have to do everything in a certain way. Most of you here would have used these oil pastels quite a few times before. I know it's not everybody's favourite. I genuinely think I might do another little one with colour pencils after this as well, because if you prefer to use colour pencils, I don't see why not. But it's a lovely subject for both of those media. It might even be lovely to paint. Let's see. So we've got some white in there, got these light tones so that we can work against it with the dark greens. There we go, 1, 2, sort of 3 coming out. I'm starting to pick up a bit of this blue, but that doesn't matter because there's blue tones in the green, so we can blend those in. I might put a bit of white in the centre of these kind of, what do you call them, pineapple knobbles? Segments? They're not really segments, are they? They look like peacock feathers to me. They're really gorgeous shape. Let's just put a few in. There we go. So we've got our lights in and we've got our background. Well, let's just pause there. There's plenty of white. Just make sure you've got plenty of white to come back from, and we can start putting in the details from there. Okay.